Hey, welcome to 2009 and Season 3. We're going to start this off by going in a bit of a different direction from usual. Most of the time the show rants about things in society and the news that happen to annoy me in any particular moment, but I don't really talk about myself all that much. Some of the fans have noticed this and would like to know what my pet peeves are. That's a pretty fair question, so I'll tell you in no particular order. Pretty high on that list is people who complain about so many inconveniences in their lives, great and small, yet don't lift a finger to change it. Like people who have trouble using the internet but don't want to learn how to use it. I've honestly seen a teacher who is pretty deep in debt but couldn't be bothered to work for some reason. I just don't get this. Can you imagine a doctor saying that you need emergency surgery but saying he doesn't feel like giving it to you? Evidently my parents and teachers did something very wrong when I was a kid. They told me that working hard is the right thing to do. While we're at it, I really can't stand people who pay no attention whatsoever to what's going on around them, yet get on a soapbox to attack it anyway. Now look, I have no problem with people saying something that I disagree with, but honestly, I think there should be a law that before you open your mouth about it in public, you should know what the fuck you're talking about. Not too long ago, I got in a lot of arguments over Stephen Harper just sitting back and playing with himself instead of doing something about the economy. Without fail, all I hear from his supporters is, "What's he supposed to do? He's only been back in power for a few weeks," or something like that. The problem is that he's been in power for a total of about 3 years now. And even though I don't have any training in economics, I for one saw this recession coming at least a year and a half ago when the mortgage crisis turned up in the States. So Emperor Harper, supposedly a trained economist, should definitely have known something was going to snap and affect us, especially since I was taught in grade 9 history class that recessions are regular things that happen every 10 or 20 years. That's why it's called an economic cycle. So the only way Harper could honestly have not had a plan until the markets crashed and he was nearly kicked out is that the guy either has no idea what he's doing or he simply doesn't give a damn. And another thing, why the hell do blue-collar men and women honestly think that Harper cares about the working stiff? This guy thrives on high-end business interests, and until 6 months ago I'd never seen him lift a finger to do anything about all the local businesses collapsing. In addition to that, he has repeatedly cut funding to or shut down groups that protect women's rights, not to mention weaken child care in this country. So why do so many people shrug off anything I say about the guy being a dictator in the wings when all he's done since taking power is break the law, sue the opposition for pointing out that he bribed an MP, trying to censor progressive voices, and finally dissolve Parliament just to save his own ass? Whenever I bring this up, people look at me like I have 3 heads, but I just read the fucking news! I also have no respect at all for people who know full well that certain people are out of line, don't do anything about it, then have the nerve to lecture people like me about things like decency and courage. Give me a break. To me, it's very simple. If someone I know is abusive and self-centered, then I stand up to them. Believe me, I've done this with people in every circle of my life, including some family members. I especially do this if such a person is getting on the case of someone else close to me. What kind of a friend would I be if I don't go to bat for them when they're in the right? If you're not going to stand up for people, then don't pretend to care about them. I have no patience for soap operas. Those who've been watching the show for a while know that I don't really have respect for the local or provincial government either, and to be honest, it's because it's usually dumb as a bloody post. This is particularly bad in Hamilton, where City Hall seems to have this allergy to doing anything useful, or even anything that will stop the city from falling apart, literally. Case in point, it took them something like 30 years to build the Red Hill Creek Expressway, and when it finally opened, not only did we have several on-ramps cutting across traffic, but there are very few lights on the thing. I mean, how stupid do you really have to be to come up with a bad design like that after 30 years? If you happen to drive on it at night, you will be blind as a bat. I mean, honestly, did nobody test this thing? I've complained about this more than once, but for some reason the city doesn't plan on doing anything about it. They even went so far as to flat out lie to me, saying that there are lights out there, but they were burned out. Well, if that's true, then the posts are also completely invisible. Maybe if some of their staff crash into a couple of beacons and guardrails one evening, they will change their minds, if they don't win some Darwin Awards along the way. Finally, since some people have gotten on my case about anti-religious statements I've made on this show, I'll try to make my views on this a little bit more clear. I don't really have a problem with people having beliefs. It's when they just follow it blindly without any thought, or they try to force those beliefs on anyone else. Then I get pissed off. For the record, I have stood up to zealots of all faiths over this, from Christians all the way to atheists. Stupidity and hatred are hardly exclusive to any one religion. Generally speaking, I get along with Christians just fine. The only time I look at them kind of funny is if they say something like, "This is wrong because God says so and that's that." Well, with all due respect, when the only proof of that is a book that is well known to have been edited and altered several times over the last couple of thousand years, some of us have good reason to be skeptical. I don't mean to be rude about this, I really don't, but it is approximately the same logic that a 5-year-old would use to say that Superman is real. Not to mention, the Bible contradicts itself so many times in tone and teachings that you can use it to justify pretty much anything, including things that are truly reprehensible. As for some of the intolerant factions, such as the Christian right, the reason I dislike them is kind of obvious. Anyone who watches them can tell that the group is racist, homophobic, and so zealous that they think non-believers have no rights. Heck, they wear it on their sleeves. But the fact that many of them use a religion of peace and love to justify hatred, war, and oppression just sickens me. I've honestly come across some wingnuts who see no reason at all to help the poor, even though Jesus said many times that his followers are supposed to do exactly that. It's precisely because of this sort of bullshit that I don't have a religion. Not because I don't believe in God, but because I don't want to be mistaken for some of these heartless lunatics who give the whole concept of faith a bad name. Okay, while I plan on revisiting this later on, I'd like to invite everyone watching this to keep the discussion going in the meantime. Talks amongst yourselves, that's what the comment board is there for, after all. You message me with your own questions and rant requests, but don't ask me to do your homework for you. And please don't lecture me on things that anyone worth a working pair of eyes and any grasp of Google can see is wrong. At the very least, I will have no qualms about blocking you, and if I'm really in a bad mood, I might just bite your damn head off. Enough said.